Today we got a new project. I'm doing some thinking. I'm going to use some epoxy on my kitchen countertops when I redo my kitchen. And I come up with the idea, this needs to be refinished anyway, so I'm going to practice on this. I'm going to strip it with some 80, go back over it with some 120, and then hit it with some 320. Then I'm going to seal it with Kills, let that dry. Then I'm going to paint it with Bear Paint and Primer 1. And then we're going to use some stuff from Stone Coat Countertops. It's epoxy resin, 2-part epoxy resin, and you mix it, mix it together and you pour it out. Then you can add paint to it to make it look like stone or marble or just anything you want. And I've seen some pretty fantastic things. I don't claim to be a pro, don't expect this to turn out super great, but it's a start. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strip this with the 80 and sand it and get it ready for paint. You guys probably don't want to see that, so I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, I've got it sanded and it's pretty good. I was going to use the 80 grit because I wanted to dig out some of this right here, but I figured that would require me sanding this whole edge off, and I didn't want to do that. This is where, when the squirrels were babies, they chewed the edges of the table. But it's pretty smooth on top, and this is just practice anyway. It doesn't have to be perfect. After this, I'm going to practice on my dining table, and then we're going to move on to the countertops. The dining table is probably 3 by 5, so that's a small dining table. And I'm thinking what I might do is do the top of the dining table and do the seats of the chairs and paint everything else white or black or something. This table's already black, so it might get to be repainted black. I don't know. But now I'm gonna clean this off and prime it with Kills, and then we're going to let that dry, sand it, and then I'm going to put a coat of Bear Paint and Primer 1 on it, and let that dry, sand it, lightly sand it. Then we're going to apply the epoxy. Again, the epoxy is from Stone Coat Countertops. They're, I think, based in Oregon, and they do some fantastic work. They used to work in the granite industry, and they came up with this idea. Well, a lot of people do it today, but it's faux granite, or whatever you want to call it. You can make countertops look like granite. You can make them look like marble, stone, concrete, or just leave them solid white or whatever color you want. You can make them look metallic. It's pretty awesome. You guys should check them out at stonecoatcountertops.com. Alright, I'm going to clean this off and get the Kills and apply some coat to the surface. We'll be back in a few. Alright, well, I got a good heavy coat of Kills on it. It was so old and dry, the varnish had already flaked off of it in a lot of places, and it just was dry as a bone. It sucked that paint up, so I had to lay a good heavy coat on it and around the edges and all. I'm going to let that dry and cure until tomorrow, and then I'm going to sand it and put the Bear Paint Primer 1 on it, let that dry for a couple hours. Then I'm going to sand that and probably start doing some epoxy preparation, and I'll show you what I mean when we get there. So we'll see you tomorrow. Hey everybody, it's the next day. I came out here this morning and I gave the Kills a good sand, and I give it a good coat of Bear Paint and Primer 1. This is actually flat. I meant to grab a satin. Satin would work better. And when I do my countertops, I'll probably use satin, but it turned out pretty good. So it's been drying for 3 or 4 hours. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some highlights in it with this and this to try and give it kind of a marble look, so that you know, it's got the streaks in it like Carrara marble has. And then after we do that, we're going to put some epoxy on there and put some highlights in the epoxy. But first I need to pop these caps, and this one's got a lock on it, it's got a cap on it, and put some highlights in it. And if you give me a minute, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I've given it a good shake for about a minute. Now what we'll do is we're going to lightly fog some streaks in it to make it look like marble, because you know marble is it's not all white. It has faint streaks in it, and some have cracks. So what you want to do is just kind of mist it in there. You don't want it too bright, kind of like that, you know, and just kind of fog it a little bit. You have to be careful. If you get it too dark, you have to paint it over to get it out. And what you want to do is you take the other colors and just kind of streak them across there like that, kind of get them to like that. It's kind of like build a pattern up in it so that when you put the gloss on it, it has a base. Now the epoxy that I'm using is going to be tinted white, the first coat. So I'll have something to build with, and once it dries, this will shine through a little bit. So we're going to give that a few minutes to cure up, and then I'm going to get the epoxy and mix it up and start pouring it on. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, this is the stuff that I'm using. It's stone coat epoxy, heat resistant, stonecoatcountertops.com. It comes in two parts, part A and B, and you're supposed to mix it 1 to 1, and it's clear. So when it dries, it'll be nice and clear. They offer base tint, so you can add it to your first coat if you want. I have white. For this little tiny table, I think I'm just going to skip the white and just go straight to clear, and show you how to add highlights to the top clear. I need to get something. Hell, I forgot now. Anyway, with this stuff in small quantities, it's okay to mix it with a mixing stick. I have one here. You need to beat it about 100 times to make sure that it's mixed well. Scrape the sides and the bottom and everything. When you pour it out, mix it again. I'm going to use some solo cups for the small table because it's not going to take much. So if I need to make more than what I mix up, I can do it, because it takes this stuff about 4 hours to set up. I am doing this outside, so I'm taking a risk on getting bugs in it, but like I said, it's just a practice project. The table I'll prep out here and take it in the house and pour the epoxy on it. But if you're mixing this stuff in large quantities, make sure to use a mixer to make sure it's blended well. Okay, I've got equal amounts of A and B in the cups. So now we're going to pour them into each other. And yes, it don't look like it, but that's the thinner stuff. Let's set the camera down. What you want to do is make sure to scrape the sides, get all of it out. You don't want to waste the stuff. It's kind of expensive. Alright. mix it like 100 times, like I said. Make sure to scrape the sides and the bottom. Mix it very, 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 very well. If you don't, it won't dry hard and it'll be sticky. Hand off, don't want to get on my camera. Okay, you just pour it out. You know what my heat gun is? After you pour it out, you might want to just move it around, make sure it's stirred up. If you're doing large surfaces, they say to use a 1/8 by 1/8 notch trowel and spread it out. I actually don't have one of those yet, so we're going to spread that out with a paintbrush. And I left it in the house. Let me grab it. Okay, I'm back. And lesson number 1, I see swirls in there from my stick. So don't do that. Consider it. I got paint, this little short nubby paintbrush. This is really good for it. You just want to like do that so that it gets stuck into the grain really well. Helps to get rid of air bubbles. If it goes over the side, kind of smooth it out. If it drips, that'll be fine. Just spread it out. Looks like we're going to have plenty, maybe a little extra. And that's another thing, don't leave it in the bucket or cup too long, because it'll heat up and get hard quick, and it'll be hard to work with. So you want to make sure you get it out of the bucket and don't leave it in a pile. Spread it out quick as you can. This is very self-leveling. See the streak right there from the stick? So don't use a stick like I did. It smeared the paint underneath. So we're going to do this here, and we're going to rub it in, so to speak. Let me get that side while I'm moving that way. And it is dripping, so it's self-leveling, and all these air bubbles and stuff will go away here shortly. You know, I'm probably doing this too much, but practice makes perfect, right? Let my paintbrush drip off. The bucket. Okay. Will be my camera girl. Just pointed at the surface and watch me. I'm going to use the stick that I started mixing with. I'm going to spray a little paint on it. We're just going to like put a little streak in there like that. A little bit more. Like that. They said you use Krylon 2X. I don't know if I'm making a mistake or not, I don't think this is 2X.
We shall see.
But we shall see. You live and you learn. Gotta spread it out, go over the edge a little. You want it to look like it's supposed to be there. Looks pretty bad right now, but it'll all blend in a minute. And the drips, when it starts to firm up, you can just wipe them like that and they come right off. That's more than I wanted, but we'll live with that. We'll use a little bit of silver. Figure out how to use this to sprinkle it. Just blend that right into the middle of it.
Yeah. Hey.
It's a metallic, so give it a little bit of metallic color. They also sell metallics that you can mix into the epoxy. You can also just give it a light spray over. For the next step, say if you're done with the colors.
Pretty cool. And the bubbles all did go away.
Yeah, and it's going to level out a little bit more. We're going to take a heat gun. You can use a torch or a heat gun. Just like go over it. And just loosen it up. It'll break the surface tension. It'll help it all flow together. It'll help it break up the bubbles. This is the corner here. Make sure I get these corners. And you can also take the brush, say, if like you want this here to lighten up, and you can just do like that. Kind of mix it in, break it up. You want to move it around, you don't want a pattern. On the hard lines, break them up. And this doesn't dry it, it just loosens it up so it'll flow out. Got them colors blend in, you can move them around a little bit if you want. Surface there, it's a little light for some reason. Remember, don't get it too hot. Break the surface on it.
Different angle.
This heat gun gets really hot. It's a painter's heat gun. So.
This just makes me want to really do our counter and my table now. It's really good.
I think I need to work on my pattern a little bit.
No, I think you did a really good job.
can wear gloves, you can wear nitrile gloves, because you with your hands, it's messy.
I like it just like that.
Alright. And you can stop at that.
Wow.
I'm probably going to stop at that on this one. And you want to let it sit and cure overnight. You come back in a few hours and wipe the drips off the edge. You know, with a stick or something, they'll be jelly-like and they'll scrape right off. Or you can wait till it dries and sand them off, whatever you want to do. But we're going to let this set overnight and harden up. And then we'll take a look at it tomorrow. And if I want, I can add a second layer of clear coat over it to make it really pop. You know, to seal in the paint and everything. So, thanks to Debbie for being my cam girl.
Anytime, anytime.
And thanks to Jelly for the commentary. And we'll see you tomorrow once this cures up. I have the table sitting over here in the sun, and as you can see, this is starting to do this thing here. So I'm going to move it out of the sun. So just a word to all you people who are new to this, don't set it in the sun because the epoxy heats up and begins to run off completely, and you can see where this is merged more. So I'm going to move it out of the sun and let it finish curing. Like I said, it takes 3 or 4 hours. I just thought maybe it would cure a little quicker if I stuck it over here. So I'm just going to move it over here so it doesn't do this anymore. So before I forget, you're actually supposed to do this in 70 to 75 degree range Fahrenheit. So don't do like me, do it inside. When I do the table, I'll do it inside. Alright guys, it's the next day. Got a few places like right here. I think I overheated it a little bit. You can see where I drug the stick through it. I don't think I believe that's from the flat paint. So you want to use satin or semi-gloss when you're doing this for your base paint. Also, I like the way these here ripples showed up in here. This is where it was sitting in the sun and the paint just kind of moved with the epoxy when the epoxy got hot. I did get a bug in it right here, but that's no big deal. Like I said, this was practice and it's just a folding table. It got a little hot right there with the heat gun, so yeah, keep moving with the heat gun or the torch or whatever you use. Don't set it on fire for very long. I can get this out with a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper, just run over it and smooth it out, and then pour a little bit more epoxy on it, and you never know it was there. But other than that, it looks great. I like it. Debbie likes it. So we're going to do that to our dining table, and as you can see, I've already got it painted, prepped up. I'm actually going to go get some paint primer one to put on here, so we can go ahead and put the epoxy on it. But I'm not going to do the epoxy out here. I'm going to take it back in the house and do it in the dining room. I got to cover the floor. But I wanted to show you what I was talking about, drips. I'm going to take these legs off, sand them down, and paint them, and paint the back of this wood so it doesn't soak up moisture, because with the top being sealed, the bottom's going to suck moisture and probably split. But as you can see right here, these drips, I didn't keep scraping. I did scrape them. You can see right here where I scraped it. But like right here, they dripped some more, and I didn't go back and do it again. You can sand these off with a sander. Sand them smooth. As long as you don't roll over the edge and strip the edge, you won't even know that happened. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to take these 4 screws out and take the legs off, and I'm going to sand and paint these legs, and I'm going to sand the back of this and paint it with some Keel so it's sealed, so it don't soak up no moisture. But other than that, we are pleased with the outcome. It is very durable. You can actually set a hot pot on here up to 400 degrees from what I understand, and it won't burn the top. I have seen them, when they make these tops, they use stainless steel half rounds, and when they pour the vinyl coat on there, there's a hair right there. like I said, just practice. When they pour the final coat on there after they do, like I did here, this is the base with the color in it, and then they pour what they call a flood coat over the top of it. They take these stainless steel rods and set them like an inch apart, different lengths, to set pots on to go beside the stove. So it's a very good adhesive as well. You could do this on a piece of plywood. I would suggest front and back to like shower walls and stuff like that. They also have a kit for vertical walls, but I don't think it looks as shiny. It's a little bit duller. So you could use that. And people do this for artwork and everything else. But again, this is from Stone Coat Countertops. It's stonecoatcountertops.com is where I got this from. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave me a thumbs up. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about me. Hope you guys have a great day.